Welcome to this explainer. Let's just completely forget about the modern skyscrapers and busy highways for a second. We're peeling back the layers of time to drop right into a bustling, AI-reconstructed Philadelphia in the year 1880. We are talking about the exact moment the modern world as we know it was being born. Just imagine it. Waking up to the clatter of iron horseshoes on cobblestone, the blast of factory whistles, shopkeepers throwing open their wooden doors while coal smoke slowly drifts up to cover the city in a gray haze. Philly is awake, and let me tell you, every single street corner has a fascinating story waiting to be told.
To really wrap our heads around this era, we've got to talk about the sheer scale. 1 million people, nearly 1 million people called this urban center home back then. That made it one of the absolute largest cities in America. It wasn't just some industrial hub, it was this massive magnet, drawing in folks from all walks of life who were just eager to get in on the ground floor of the Industrial Revolution.
And you know, a huge chunk of that explosive growth was driven by an incredibly diverse wave of immigrants. We're talking thousands of people arriving with fresh dreams of better opportunities. They came from Ireland, Germany, Italy, Eastern Europe, and as they settled, something amazing happened. Their cultures began to blend. They built these incredibly vibrant, lively neighborhoods packed with totally new languages, customs, and some seriously good food, creating a rich cultural fabric that would define the city for generations to come.
Section 1. Grand Streets and Landmarks.
All right, let's zoom in on the magnificent exterior of the city. Picture Market Street, right as the morning sun hits the elegant buildings. Talk about sensory overload. The air literally smells like a mix of coal smoke and fresh bread from the local bakeries. You've got horse-drawn streetcars rattling by, businessmen rushing toward the banks, laborers heading to the factories with their metal lunchboxes, and ladies browsing shop windows. And through it all, street vendors are just yelling at the top of their lungs, selling hot coffee and roasted chestnuts, while kids weave through the crowds shouting out the latest newspaper headlines. It's pure, beautiful chaos amidst all this detailed red brick architecture.
What's so fascinating is how Philadelphia was proudly balancing its revolutionary, Greek-inspired past with this incredibly dusty, steam-powered future. I mean, look at this. On one hand, you have Independence Hall and the Liberty Bell, complete with its famous crack, pulling in travelers who want to stand right where the Declaration of Independence was signed. But then, just a short distance away, the future is literally under construction. City Hall is being built with these massive, roaring, steam-powered cranes, hoisting gigantic blocks of stone. The air is thick with dust and the constant pounding of hammers. They were building what would become one of the tallest structures on Earth.
Section 2. The Industrial Powerhouse.
As the day peaks, we hit the gritty core of the city, its massive manufacturing engine. For your average factory worker, the daily grind was, well, it was grueling. You'd start your day bright and early with those blaring whistles, and then you were looking at a 12-hour shift. 12 hours, 6 days a week. Safety equipment was basically non-existent, and accidents operating that dangerous machinery were super common. But here's the thing. Despite those undeniably harsh conditions, folks desperately wanted these jobs because they provided a stable income. It was a crucial foothold in this brand new industrial economy.
And those workers were churning out the very things that were rapidly transforming America. We aren't talking about quaint little workshops here. These were roaring, gigantic factories with massive spinning belts transferring power overhead. Philly was pumping out textiles, massive locomotives, iron ships, complex machinery, and huge quantities of steel. It was, without a doubt, the manufacturing heart of the entire nation.
To move all those goods, the city relied on some massive commercial lifelines. Down on the Delaware River waterfront, wooden docks just stretched on forever. Cranes hauled up giant crates of spices and European machinery from cargo ships. On land, you've got steam locomotives pulling incredibly long trains packed with coal, livestock, and steel out to New York, Washington, Chicago, and everywhere in between. The train stations and waterfronts were just an absolute beehive of sailors, merchants, and travelers.
Section 3. Mansions and Tenements.
When you step away from the commercial centers, you immediately notice a city of dramatic extremes. Just a few blocks could feel like entirely different universes. On one side of town, wealthy families are living in elegant mansions with beautifully landscaped gardens, glowing gas lamps, imported furniture, and servants preparing meals. But take a short walk, and reality hits hard. You've got overcrowded tenement buildings where working-class families, sometimes whole families, are crammed into just 2 or 3 tiny rooms. Clean water was scarce, sanitation was poor, and when summer hit, diseases spread like wildfire. It's a very stark picture of the economic divide of the era.
Section 4. Life, Leisure, and Innovation.
But despite the grueling work and tough conditions, society was figuring things out and finding ways to improve daily life. To handle this booming population, growing institutions were stepping up to provide structure. Public schools were expanding rapidly to educate future workers. Picture super strict classrooms, wooden desks, and lots of firm discipline with blackboards. Meanwhile, medicine was making massive leaps. Doctors were relying on new scientific discoveries, using antiseptic techniques to save lives during what were still very risky surgeries. And tying it all together was religion. Sunday church bells, charities, and community events were absolutely essential for helping new immigrants adjust to their lives in America.
So what about downtime? I mean, they didn't have smartphones to doom scroll. To escape the smog and the crowded streets, people turned to live entertainment. Folks attended theater performances, musical concerts, public lectures, and even traveling circus shows. Or if you just wanted some peace and quiet, Fairmount Park was a huge draw. It became one of the largest urban parks in the country, a perfect spot for an afternoon horse ride or a family picnic by the river, completely away from the smoke of the factories.
And we can't forget the tech. Incredible new technological innovations were literally rewiring the rhythm of daily life. Telegraph wires were suddenly connecting businesses across the entire country almost instantly. Gas streetlights were popping up, making traveling at night safer than it had ever been. Inventors were just constantly rolling out these absolute game changers that promised to completely reshape how people worked and lived moving forward.
But let's hit pause for a second. With all this tremendous progress, all these roaring factories and shiny new inventions, we have to ask, what was the true cost of this rapid industrialization?
The truth is, there was a heavy price to pay for all that urban growth. The same factories that created jobs also pumped out immense pollution that literally darkened the sky with soot. Rivers were becoming choked with industrial waste. And despite the boom, widespread poverty still trapped thousands of families who were just struggling to survive day to day. Perhaps the most sobering reality? Child labor remained completely commonplace. Instead of sitting in those newly built schools, young boys and girls were working brutally long hours in the mills and workshops. These were the very real, very harsh growing pains of a booming industrial powerhouse.
Section 5. A City Between Worlds.
As dusk finally falls on 1880 Philadelphia, the whole city starts to take a breath and wind down. Those gas lamps begin glowing softly along the streets. You can hear horse-drawn carriages navigating the intersections as exhausted factory workers finally head home. The saloons and theaters fill up with music, restaurants are bustling, and folks are reading the evening papers about national politics and business. And inside those crowded tenements and elegant mansions alike, families gather around the dinner table, sharing stories about their day and their hopes for the future. It's this incredible snapshot of a city holding tightly to its early American traditions while racing headfirst into a modern future.
Today, much of that 1880 world has vanished beneath our modern roads and skyscrapers, though a few historic landmarks still survive to connect us to this remarkable era. But as we wrap up this explainer, I want you to remember that beneath the concrete we walk on every day lies the historic foundation built by the daily lives of ordinary people. Every street, every brick, and every face shaped the future of America. So I'll leave you with this to ponder. Next time you're walking through your own city, what hidden stories from the past are right there beneath your feet, just waiting to be uncovered?